Hello and welcome back to Terror and Touchdowns. I apologize for this very bootleg amateur setup. Those wonderful noises that you just heard was the audio from my old podcast that I'm trying it differently today. The other day I just recorded on this OSB free platform and then just uploaded it and then took out the video. Today I'm going back and trying to do it separately. So on GarageBand, I am currently recording the podcast like I've always done for several years. And then on OSB, I'm recording the video. So that was my old intro music. Today is Wild Card Sunday. So later today, while I watch football, I'm going to kind of research other platforms because I've only used GarageBand and Spreaker. Spreaker is what I use to get it onto to Apple Podcasts and all that other stuff. But I'm going to look today and see if there's a platform that just can do it all in one location that makes it easier and makes it fun and all that good stuff. But today, we're not talking about anything except a movie that I saw yesterday. I actually saw two movies yesterday. Oh, we should probably back up. My name's David Ritchie. I just got done running. It's 25 degrees outside here in La Mesa, Texas, which is out here in the middle of West Texas. That's why I'm still wearing my hoodie. I did fix my hair for this one, fresh cut as of today. So welcome back to Terror and Touchdowns, the second episode on the newly named Terror and Touchdowns. The first one was about the college football playoff, which is touchdowns. This one is about Primate, which is terror. And the way that I'm going to do this is I'm going to talk about the movie very vaguely and then give you a rating that ties to the touchdowns. That's how we're going to link them. So it's not like I'm just living in two totally separate worlds. And then we're going to kind of get more in depth into the movie. So as I build this massive audience, if you're curious whether or not you should watch it, you can listen to the first part, which will be kind of like watching the trailer and hearing the rating. And then if you go watch it and you want to hear what I thought about it, then you can listen to the rest. And you can take it even a step further. If you watch it and you heard me talk about it, you're like, man, it sounds fun. Once I figure all this out, holler at me and I'll let you come on and we can talk movies together. So today, Primate. I actually saw two movies yesterday. So today is my son's 15th birthday. He was born 1/11/11. When we were asked, I am divorced now, but when we were asked at the time, we were going to have to, induce. Sorry, that he was our second child, and we were going to have to induce. So we kind of got to pick game day. And I remember the doctor coming in with some choices, and this was still back out. For those that listened to the last episode, I'm a 3-decade-long educator. So I've been in classrooms for a long time, and those of us that are old like me remember Scantrons. And I remember when we were given the choices, when I saw that one of the choices was 1/11/11, I was like, man, he will never mess up filling out the bubbles on a Scantron. So that's one of the main reasons we picked it. And he probably has never seen a Scantron in his life because they don't really exist anymore. If you hear the dings, that's my family making sure. I always make sure they tell my sons happy birthday. So I texted them all this morning to make sure they tell Logan happy birthday. So that's what all the dings are. Will do, we got you, all that good stuff. So anyway, he's turning 15 and he really didn't know what he wanted to do with his friends for his birthday. We did it yesterday. So he decided he would just go to the movie. And, you know, because they're still 15 and they're really good kids, they kind of had to be picky about what they went to see. And the only non-rated R movie that was even kind of interesting to them all was the SpongeBob movie. And so he has a great group of friends that I love being around. And so we met at the Lubbock Mall. We went to see the SpongeBob movie. And then his favorite place to eat is Cane's. Shout out Cane's. There's one in the mall parking lot or right next to it. So after the movie, we walked over there. And then I loaded up 5 teenage boys, two of which are extraordinarily tall, into my little Toyota RAV4 and scooted them over to their neighborhood where they have a basketball court, and they played that basketball. I had to drive back. They live in Lubbock. I live in Lamesa. It's about an hour away. I left. The movie ended. I mean, it was a 2:45 movie. Ended 4:30ish. We ate till like 6. I left Lubbock around 8 probably, and they were still playing in the dark. So I believe, I talked to him again last night, and I think he had a good birthday. So I say all that to say I saw 2 movies yesterday because I got over there a little early so that I could watch Primate. I wanted to see it. I knew I was not going to want to stay after to see it. Plus, I didn't know what after would look like. And y'all that have teenage kids know that never plan anything because it's no telling what it's really going to look like. And it looked like canes and basketball, so I'm glad I didn't try to save it. So I went over a little early, checked all the times. There's 3 theaters in Lubbock. Found the one that would best fit my schedule. Got up, worked out, drove over, watched it. Went and got my oldest son, drove back, watched SpongeBob's, went to Canes, then did the basketball. So, funny story, I've never, ever once watched a SpongeBob cartoon. I know he wears square pants. I know there is a campfire song that I liked a lot. I knew there was somebody called Squidward. I knew there was Krabby Cakes or something that they do for Halloween candy. But outside of that, I didn't know anything about SpongeBob. And I think the 15-year-old boys got up and sat down and got up and sat down. Y'all would have been proud of them moviegoers. They were not on their phones. But they do free refills on the drinks at the mall in Lubbock. And so there were multiple times they got up, came back, got up, came back. But throughout the movie, I think this old bald man was the one in the theater laughing the most. I actually thought it was pretty funny. Not the best movie I've ever seen, but I sure could have spent an hour and a half in a way worse manner. So if you're a SpongeBob fan, I'd say go see it. It made me want to watch more SpongeBob. So, but we're not here to talk about SpongeBob, even though I am going to add it to my letterbox because that's one of my goals of the new year is to stay up on my letterbox because I've never done that. Like I always start for a few weeks and then I end the year adding a ton of movies, but I'm going to try to stay up on it. So I'm going to add SpongeBob, but that's not what we're here to talk about. And I've got to drink this pretty swiftly as we go. This is my protein drink that has applesauce, yogurt, green tea, vanilla protein, kale, spinach, arugula, strawberries, blackberries, raspberries. It's really good. So, but it gets worse if it gets warm. So that's why I'm drinking it. But if you need a good protein shake recipe, holler at me. Even though I just told it to you, I didn't tell you the measurements. It's a secret. You got to pay extra to get that. I don't know what extra is. So, Primate. All right, Primate's the first real horror movie I've watched of 2026. I say this all the time, I try to avoid trailers as best I can. I don't dodge them in theater. I don't know if y'all remember Joe Blow's website back in the day where you could just watch movie trailers right and left. Man, I used to be a movie trailer watching full. But in this day and age, I feel like they give away too much during trailers, so I try not to watch trailers too much, but this one's been pretty active on TV. It's been pretty active in the theaters, and the most recent trailers are the ones of the audience reaction, where they say we put mics and cameras on everybody in the theater to get their reaction, and they were all jumping, which, we see that once every few years. Paranormal Activity was that. Every now and then you see that, where they try to really base it on the audience reaction. Terrifier, they don't do that, but they always talk about X amount of people who threw up watching the movie. But, the trailer before that interested me enough. I felt like maybe they, and I don't know this, they got the idea watching Nope from the section about Gordy, which is a pretty powerful section of what I think is a great movie. For those that want a spoiler-free review of Nope, I love it. It looked interesting. It looked I mean, it looked like Cujo with a monkey, and I like Cujo. So I was going to go see it probably anyway. Might have waited had they not put those audience reactions on there. Now, it wasn't just the audience reactions, it was the audience reactions mixed with me looking at the few sites I look at. I'm a Metacritic guy, a Rotten Tomatoes guy. I really don't read the reviews. I just kind of see where it's sitting. That never dictates whether or not I watch a movie. It will dictate whether or not I'm going to go to the theater to watch a movie. I'm a theater guy. I love the movie going experience. That goes back to my childhood. That was something my mother and father did when they were wanting to do something nice for the family, as we all went, me and my two sisters and them, to the movie. So I've always loved it. When I grew up in Sweetwater, Texas, it's not in existence anymore, but the Texas Theater, 2-screen movie theater, a downstairs and an upstairs, was operational. And I actually had my own seat in both the bottom and the top. Here in La Mesa, little town, I don't know our population off the top of the head. We're a 3A school district for those that speak football. And we have a little 2-screen movie theater, and you wouldn't know it. Like, if you drove by it, you'd be like, there's no way there's a movie theater in there. But it's run by a guy named Mike. We call him Movie Mike. He's a legend. My sons think the world of him, as do I. But it is taken care of greatly. There's a foundation in town called the Weaver Foundation that's put a lot of money into it. There's a lot of volunteers that put a lot of time into it. But I've gotten, now he doesn't hold it. Like in Sweetwater, when I was a kid, they wouldn't let anybody else sit in it because they knew I was coming. Every Sunday that was coming. Or Friday night if it was something that I was really excited to see. But C5 here in La Mesa is my spot. Now Mike doesn't save it for me, but he knows that that's my spot. I say all that to say going to the theater is something I love to do. But in this day and age, sometimes you go to something that's going to be on streaming here a few weeks after. Like, that's going to be hard for me to decide here in a few weeks with the new 28 Days Later movie, Bone Temple, 28 Years Later, Bone Temple. I don't know what the actual title is, because it's going to be in the theater, but it's not going to be in the theater for long, and it's going to be on Netflix pretty quickly. I'm not going to lie. I watched the most recent one on Netflix, but that was more because I was busy and not able to get to the theater. But I say all that to say Primate had the right recipe for me to decide, all right, we're going to go watch this in the theater if we can find the time. Last reason it's hard to find the time before I get into the actual movie is I share my location with my sons. My sons live in Lubbock. I live in La Mesa. So if Mike has it down here at our theater, easy. I can go see it. Logan still gets mad because he tracks my location like he's a private investigator. He'll still get mad at me. He'll see I'm there. Then he'll pull up the website and see what I'm watching. Be like, why'd you go see this without me? That changes when I go to Lubbock. Like, if they look up and I'm in Lubbock, then it's like, what the crap, Dad? Like, you could have come and got us. I knew I'd have a little window yesterday because he was going to be asleep because he sleeps late on the weekends. And my other son was over in Levelland competing at a band contest, and his birthday was I was like, this might be the perfect recipe for me to get over and see it. And so it all worked out. So that's why, and that's how I decide whether or not I'm going to go to the theater to watch a movie. So, Primate. The spoiler-free review, I would say, is, okay, so let's talk about what it's about. The surface level, you could watch the trailer and figure this out, what it's about. A family has a chimpanzee that is basically part of the family that some reason decides to start killing them all and kills them all. I mean, that's it. I said it earlier, it's Cujo with a monkey. And chimpanzee, for those monkey lovers, I don't mean to be disrespectful towards chimpanzees, but I might say monkey more throughout this deal, so I apologize. That's the gist of it. And Yeah, they hit the nail on the head. So before I get into it, I don't really know what else to say about it, because if you've seen Cujo and you've seen monkey movies, if you've seen Nope with Gordy, there you go. That's the movie. It's an hour and 29 minutes, and that's kind of going to lead into why I give it a touchdown. So let me explain how I'm going to do my rating systems. And again, this is not why I called it Terror and Touchdowns. I called it Terror and Touchdowns because I'm going to talk about my two favorite things, scary movie and football. But I was like, when I was running this morning, I was like, we can do the ratings that way, right? Like, we can give it a shutout, 0 points. Don't go see it. We could give it a safety, 2 points. We could give it a field goal, 3 points. We could give it a touchdown and an extra point. That's 7. We could go for 2. We could go to overtime. It could be the greatest game ever. So we're going to use that. So what I would say about Primate, and this will make sense to my fellow coaches out there, on the weekends when you're planning for next week's game, I was an offensive coordinator before I was a head football coach, and you typically would make a script for your first, every coach does it different. If you're scripting your first 10 plays, you're a very confident offensive coordinator, in my opinion. I never was able to rip off 10 plays. Now, I worked for a guy that scripted 10 plays, and he won a state championship. I did not. But I would try to script the first 5 to 7 plays. And what that means is, after you watch all the film, after you do all the game planning, you're going to script a group of plays that you think will be successful based on all of your study and research as the game starts. Now, those scripted plays are going to be a mixture of run and pass. Those scripted plays are going to be different formations. And you are doing that to see, are they going to line up like I have studied that I think they are going to line up? And if they do, are our blocking schemes going to work as I have studied that they should work, based on alignment, based on player study, based on movements and all that? And a good script will lead to a touchdown, right? A bad script will lead to disaster. And the perfect script, like let's say you did an 8-play script. The perfect script is going to be balanced run and pass. I was a very balanced play caller. So I may start the game with like a 60-40 split, run or pass, depending on what I thought was going to be the most successful. I wasn't going to force the run or force the pass. I was just going to try to move the ball effectively. But that script's going to have a mixture of both. It's going to hit the formations that I think are going to be the most effective. And I'm going to have someone in the press box charting the alignment of the defense to those. It will, if I think they've got a heck of a linebacker, we will use those 8 plays to see if he's going where we think he's going. If it's a defensive tackle, if that defensive tackle is doing what we think that defensive tackle is doing, if the secondary coverage is doing what we think they're going to do, to the formations and to the routes and to the movement. And if it does, like I said, it's going to be a run-pass split. It's going to lead to positive plays, maybe an incomplete here or two, but no sacks, no lost yardage, no turnovers. And the best scripts, you move the ball down the field, you score a touchdown, you kick the extra point, and you take the lead. Or you tie it, depending on who got the ball first. So I say all that to say, a good script does exactly what your research and your study shows it should do. And that's, you moved the ball, you scored an extra point. Nothing fancy. There were no trick plays. A real good script, like a false script, we'll just say that, would mean that 7 of the plays are not working like you thought, but then you've got a running back that bounces it for 70 and he scores. Well, that didn't really tell us that the script was good, but we still scored our points, right? So it's not that. Like, this is a steady drive down the field, 3 out of 4 complete, no sacks, no lost yardage plays. Everything worked exactly as we thought it would, and we were able to put points on the board. That's what Primate is, right? They knew the assignment. Don't make a 2.5-hour movie. Introduce the monkey, get us attached to the monkey, which I'm going to hit on that a little bit. The monkey's name is Ben. I guess that's the way I can be respectful to all chimpanzees and monkeys, is call him by his name. His name is Ben. Establish Ben, establish the family, like the characters. Ben goes nuts, and then let Ben go on his killing spree, and then Ben gets stopped. End of movie. Hour 29, if I remember right. And I'm not going to look up the research today, but I think it was an hour, we'll say hour and a half. And you're in, you're out, you jump, you're scared. It's been a very long time since I've been scared in a movie theater, but you feel it, right? Maybe some other people in the theater that have not been acclimated as us horror movie people do jump, do scream. There was a few where even I was like, don't go upstairs, or don't go do that. Like, you get the response. Good kills, Ben does his thing, and then it ends. So like it is the formula for success. It is, we understand why you're here. Here is why you're here. You feel like that was why I was there. And then you leave. And you may or may not think about it after you leave. So I would say that it was a good script. We moved the ball. We didn't turn it over. We didn't take sacks. We didn't fumble. No loss of yardage. We moved it down the field. We completed most of the passes we wanted to complete. We scored. We kicked the extra point. And it's 7-0 or 7-7. Doesn't mean we won the game. It just means we got off to a really good start. That's Primate. So, yeah, I would say go see it. I enjoyed it. I'll watch it again when it's on streaming. I would not pay money to go watch it again. Now, if I have a group of friends, if it was showing down here with the Legend Movie Mike and they were like, we want to go see it, I'd go see it with them again, but I wouldn't go out of my way to go see it again. And I am a repeat movie guy. Like, when I like it, I'll watch it over and over. It'll be one that I will have no problems with having on the TV when I'm cleaning house, when I'm going to sleep, things like that. So yeah, Primate. It's a good drive. It's a good script. It's a good touchdown. It's an extra point. You know what you're getting into. You'll enjoy it. Good kills. Decent gore. I'm not a gore guy. I don't shy away from it, but that's not why I go. Good suspense, good set pieces. And that's the other thing I would say. If you've seen the trailer, like I was watching it, knowing I had X amount of time to get out of there, and knowing that, well, if it is truly an hour and a half, which obviously it is, but as it gets going, you know there's the set pieces from the trailer, right? There's the car, there's the friends that you don't know in the trailer who they are, but some guy is going to show up at the house looking for a party. The pool, where they all say chimps can't swim, jump in the pool, right? So as it's going, I'm thinking in my head what I've seen and what I haven't seen from the trailer. And so in this case, watching the trailer actually benefited me, because 45 minutes into the movie, and I apologize to my moviegoers, but I was the only one in the theater. I did have my phone where I could see the text. Now I turned the brightness all the way down, but I'm trying to sell this house. And so if somebody requested a showing, I'm going to quickly say yes. But about 45 minutes into it, my oldest son, who is in Levelland, which is 30 minutes away from Lubbock, texts because his competition is over and he wants me to come get him, because he didn't think originally he was going to be able to make it back for his brother's SpongeBob movie birthday. And all of a sudden, he's done earlier than expected. And if I'll come get him, he can. Well, I'm like, of course. So it became very important to me that the movie ended when I thought it would end, so that I could get over there, get back in time for the SpongeBob. So that's when I started kind of checking the boxes in my head. Okay, I've seen them in the pool. I have seen them come in the house for the party. I haven't seen the car yet. And then the car came on and I was like, all right, so I've seen all the big set pieces from the trailer now is the climax. And it all worked out. It ended. I jetted over to Levelland. I got him in time for SpongeBob. So for those that do not want a spoiler review, I enjoyed Primate. You're getting exactly what you think you're going to get. Nothing less, but nothing more. But it's very enjoyable. I would definitely say it's one of the, not every theatrical horror movie these days is worth your time and money. I think Primate is. I don't know if it's worth your time and money twice, but it's a popcorn movie. It's exactly what it is. Go turn your brain off for an hour and 29 minutes, enjoy it, and then go watch SpongeBob after. So yes, Primate. It's a good positive drive where you move the ball down the field, you score, you kick the extra point, and then you get on with the game. And you learn what you learn, and you're happy that you went, and you're happy that you did it, and then that's it. So with that being said, it is time to kind of talk a little more in depth about the movie. I'm going to pause so that all of you that want to stop and go watch Primate can go. Do it right now. I'm assuming you're back, or I'm assuming you never left, or I'm assuming you're not watching this. So one of the biggest questions I had going into Primate was, how is the monkey going to go crazy? Now, I don't have social media outside of LinkedIn. I do have X. But I'm not Facebook. I'm not Snapchat. I'm not Instagram, and I'm not TikTok. But I've thought about if I'm gonna get on one is TikTok, because like the way that I understand it, there's just videos, and it just kind of starts to learn you and what you watch, and you just watch videos, right? Well, like there's certain things I like to watch videos about: roller coasters, football, prize picks, prop bets. But I also like animals. I'm a dog guy, even though I don't have a dog. I don't have a dog because I've worked 7 days a week, but I'm going to get a dog now that I don't work 7 days a week. But like I have my best friend on planet Earth. She loves to go to the beach, and every time she goes to the beach, I am watching my shark tracker, because I am a believer that we as humans were not meant to go in the water because we do not have fins. And there's not a lot you can do if you're out in the middle of the ocean swimming and a shark decides to eat you for lunch. So I'm always looking to see if there's close ones, yada, yada. Well, she goes to where there's crystal clear water. And I don't think that matters, but she's still to this point always been able to return safely. I am a mountain guy, right? And I'm a hiker, and I'm a climber. And I've really, growing up, never really ever thought about the danger of doing that. But in my old age, I'm not sure that going hiking in Yellowstone with the bears is not equally as dangerous as jumping in the water and swimming out there where there's sharks. I say all that to say, like, I'm always researching shark attacks, bear sightings, wolves, anything like that. Well, I'm not going to say that I've ever fallen down the rabbit hole of watching videos about pet monkeys, but I kind of have. Not in the sense of Ben and Primate, where monkeys are hurting their owners, but I do, if I see some news article about somebody having a pet monkey, there's a good chance I'm going to spend the next 45 minutes or so looking at people that have pet monkeys. I look at people that have pet cobras. And yes, there are people that have pet cobras. Well, that's crazy to me. And, the things you learn about monkeys are that they throw their poop, that they're smart, very intelligent, very stubborn. They're not really like dogs that are going to learn to do what you tell them to do. I mean, to an extent. But the thing you learn about them is how strong they are. Even the little ones. I don't think you want to make a monkey mad. And so, go back to watching Nope, and that scene with Gordy, well, the scenes, it's more than one, that's pretty intense. And the power and I don't remember monkey people, if Gordy was a chimpanzee. Gordy and Ben looked a lot alike, so I'm assuming they're some sort of the same. But I thought they did a great job in Nope of, through sound, letting us know how strong that monkey was when the balloon popped and he went nuts. So, you know, so did Gordy go nuts just because the balloon popped, or was there something wrong with Gordy? I don't know, but I did go into this wondering, all right, what's gonna flip Ben's switch? You learn it immediately, because one of the very first things that comes on the screen is what the definition of rabies is, which I'm not gonna lie, I taught English for 15 years, but I guess I never had rabies as a vocabulary word because I didn't know that was the definition. And again, I'm sorry, but I'm not, it's really cold in my house and I'm not getting my hands out to type what the definition is, but it has something to do with fear of water, which obviously plays into this because they jump into the pool. But more than anything, I immediately knew, okay, so that's what's about to happen to Ben. Ben's going to get rabies. Well, not only is Ben going to get rabies, Ben's got rabies from the start. That's how the movie opens, with a veterinarian that appears to know Ben, which this house lives, so they live in Hawaii, which I've never been to Hawaii. I have a cousin, shout out Buck, that does live in Hawaii. I'd like to go to Hawaii, but I've never lived in Hawaii. But if I ever did live in Hawaii, I would like to live in the house that is in this movie. And I don't think I can afford that on the salary of an educator, but it is like on the edge of a mountain with a drop down into the ocean with a pool and a monkey enclosure and all kinds of stuff. So, but it opens with this veterinarian going into Ben's enclosure with his kit, because we found out later that the owners of Ben have called, and I'm assuming this is Ben's vet. There's probably only so many vets in Hawaii that work on chimpanzees. And he immediately knows something's wrong with Ben. And again, you're in the spoiler zone here, so Ben wears him out. And that one, you see more, you see Ben rip the skin off of the guy's face, if I remember right. And for those that have seen it, you are probably all younger and have a better memory than me. So if I'm a little off on some of that, I apologize. But it's gory, but it's not the goriest part of the movie. And it happens inside. So inside the enclosure, Ben has like his little home, right? Like his dog house inside the enclosure. It happens inside there, so it's very dark. But you immediately already know, all right, so that's what's up with Ben. He got cujoed. So then you meet all the characters. So that's the opening of the movie, right? They run the little thing that says Primate. You learn through the description of rabies that comes on the screen. All right, Ben's going to get rabies, and then you see Ben has rabies. And that's what's caused Ben to go nutsy. And the first person that gets it is the vet. And so I was already on board. I was like, all right, they're not wasting any time, which is good news for me because I've got a lot to do today. But you also don't see, you know how he got rabies. And at some point in the movie, you see that he's got a bite on his arm. You learn later that it was a mongoose bite. But you don't see all that. He's just got it to start the movie. He's got it. Well, then they, boom, change scene. So that's how it starts. It starts horrific, and then all of a sudden the screen's brighter and it's happier, and we're on an airplane. And I guess I should do a better job on this and letting you know who all was who. But you meet the main characters, I would say, of the movie as they are flying home. And the main girl is on the phone FaceTiming with her younger sister, and evidently you can tell she hadn't been home in a while. And you find out that the reason she hasn't been home in a while is because mom, I don't know that they ever say it, but mother has passed away. Their father is completely deaf and speaks through sign language, which kind of ties into how Ben learned sign language so much. And The way that I took it is that it was tough on the family, and the way that the older daughter coped with it was to not go home. And the younger sister has kind of been upset about that because she wants to see her sister. But she's on her way home with a friend, what you think are two friends, but you figure out real quick it's actually one friend and then that friend's friend, which really isn't the daughter's friend, and they don't really like each other. There's this whole love triangle thing that I'm not going to get overly into because I thought, again, hour and a half, you're only going to dive so deep into these characters. But when they land in Hawaii, the first person that greets them is the guy that you can tell is liked by the main girl, but you can also tell that we'll just call it a friend, not friend, also likes this guy, right? But you can definitely tell it's a family friend, and they all go to the house, and she immediately goes up to her younger sister's room, and they kind of squash their beef, and they get happy they're there. You see that the young man that met him at the airport is going to stick around, and the dad is leaving because the dad is trying to sell a book. It's kind of what I gathered from it. And the girls are a little upset that this is the first time the older sister's been home, and the dad is jetting for a while. But the guy is obviously someone the dad knows too, because they're like, yeah, I'm going to stick around, protect the girls as a joke. They don't think there's anything to protect them from at the time because they don't know Ben's been cujoed yet. So then you meet Ben. And I like the way that they introduced Ben. The sisters are talking, and one of the older sister says, hey, we brought someone new home or something like that. And so they go into the room, and it's kind of like every time somebody new is at the house, they scare them with Ben. And so you meet Ben, and you quickly understand how Ben can communicate. If you've seen the trailer, you already know he has like a computer pad that they have in various places around the house, and he can do some sign language, which that was something I did like. So the father is completely deaf, and there's a scene late in the movie that I really like that uses that. But since the father's deaf, the daughters know how to speak in sign language, which I thought kind of all flowed together to why Ben would be so good at sign language. What you get shorted on outside of quick little narratives, some newspaper articles, some pictures around the house, what you get shorted on is Ben's relationship with the family. You get shown it in, like I said, little pieces, very briefly, and in my opinion, very surface level. But that's why we're here for an hour and a half. And that's why this is not Rise of the Dawn of the Apes, whatever it is. I don't remember the name of any of those three that are really good. But though this isn't a 2.5 hour dramatic telling of a monkey that gets saved and taught how to be a human. This ain't that. So through the pictures around the house, through I believe it was a newspaper clipping of the mom who's passed away sitting next to a young Ben. You can tell it's a much younger version of Ben. You learn that this monkey, they have tried to raise him and teach him, but he has been a part of this family for a while. And that was one part that I didn't think was overly established. Like when Ben flips, which Ben flips really fast, the connection to the family, you get it, you feel it, but it's not as deep as what you would think. But again, like I've said 100 times, you're there for an hour and a half, you get what you get. Let's rock and roll, right? So dad leaves. Let me backtrack. When they were on the plane, they had a very awkward scene where they met two what they classify as good-looking guys. And I don't believe we ever saw them exchange numbers, but they do. The girls get the boy's number. And as the dad leaves, they're going to decide to have themselves a party And at some point, and this to me is the only time the love triangle part gets mentioned, there's a bit of tension between the older daughter, the older sister, and the friend, not friend, because it's obvious from a scene the first night that they get there that the young man is planning on hooking up with the friend, not friend. And when the daughter, older sister kind of sees that, you can see there's a bit of jealousy. And so in order to call that out, so basically they're all just sitting there talking about having a party, and you can tell there's some flirting going on between the friend, not friend, and the guy. And so the older sister, and yeah, I'd be way better at this if I was telling y'all their names, but I can't remember their names. Hour and a half, right? She calls out, hey, didn't you get the number for those boys on the airplane? As to say, hey, she likes other guys too, just to try to throw a kink in their plan. So anyway, they call them, they don't get them, they leave a voicemail. That scene's kind of funny. You'll have to see it to understand. But they set up, the whole point for me of that was to set up, we're going to need more people for Ben to kill. And so we're going to lay the seeds that at some point in time, those cute guys are going to come over to the crib. So that dad leaves and they end up having a big pool party. I say big, there's only about 4 people. So there's people at the house are the 2 sisters, their best friend, her older best friend, which another underdeveloped thing they just kept throwing out there. Each of them have a half of a necklace. They never talk about why, when, where, any of that. They do it 2 or 3 times. And in my opinion, they're only doing it so we know as the audience, oh, they're tight, right? This other girl that came with them, they're not tight. These 2 are tight. So the sisters are tight, and then the older sister is tight with the one she shares the necklace with. And then you have friend, not friend, and then you have homeboy. We'll just call him homeboy moving forward, because homeboy is there to hook up, but he's also a family friend that's gonna hang out and help protect him or whatever. So the very first night, friend, not friends, hanging out. Homeboy has come down to you kind of get the vibe that, oh, there may be something going on here later on in the sheets. But anyway, so he goes to bed and she's hanging out by herself by the pool, and Ben kind of sneaks up on her. And she was scared of Ben the very first time. So this is the second time she's been around Ben, because they introduced Ben to her with the kind of joke with the sisters, and it was all good. He was kind of acting like himself. This time he's not so much acting like himself, but he's not full-blown Cujo yet. But she can tell something's off. And he kind of starts to get aggressive, and she starts yelling and screaming. Let me backtrack. Dad has not left yet, because Dad ends up saving the day. They all come out and see what's going on, and he's got this whistle he can blow that immediately calms Ben down. Ben goes with him. He goes and puts Ben in his enclosure. So this house has monkey stuff in the house. Like there's this ladder that goes from the bottom. There's just like 3 stories, bottom story to the top story. And he's got his bed in the girls' room, but then he's also got his own amazing enclosure, right? Like Ben is treated good. And my first thought was, all right, how did he get out of that enclosure? Because the movie opens with the veterinarian going into the enclosure. I had forgotten, or I can't remember, because they go back to that scene. They kind of time jump a little bit, but you later find out that when the veterinarian went into the enclosure to give him the shots, which, okay, now that I'm processing it, so that makes sense. So the opening scene with the veterinarian actually takes place the night that the girl has the uncomfortable experience with Ben, the first night that they are there, because the dad is still there. The dad blows the whistle, calms Ben down, takes Ben by the hand, tells friend, not friend, hey, he's a little sketchy when he's around strangers. You're all good. He's fine. Walks him to the enclosure, locks the door, then sends a text to the vet to tell him, hey, something's off with Ben. Vet shows up that night. Vet unlocks the door, goes in. Then the scene that happened at the beginning of the movie takes place. But he didn't lock the door. He's dead. Ben's ready to rock and roll. So fast forward to the next day, pool party, rocking and rolling. Dad is gone now. And they have called these other guys. The other guys aren't there yet, though. And basically the party starts. And at some point, Ben shows up, and Ben has gone full Cujo at this point. And they can see it. Like, he's got the foam. Like, Ben is gone. And they make that comment at one point. That's not Ben anymore. And it's not. It's not Ben anymore. And so, first death was the vet. But at this point, they think they can kind of take care of it, right? Because it's Ben. And they've been friends with Ben since Ben was a little chimpanzee. So they're going to just handle this. So they're all on the side of the pool because they've been in the pool. And they get the smart idea that, hey, let's tie him up with a rope. This goes back to my research on monkeys. I'm like, ain't no rope going to hold a chimp. Because when these dudes get Cujo, they're strong. Right. And so they've kind of got him surrounded, and, you know, he's aggressive, but he hadn't attacked anybody yet. But they're like, something ain't right with Ben. And so Homeboy goes over to this little chest of toys that's by the pool and is looking for a rope, finds a rope and is fastening the rope to a bar or something to hold it in place, and then he's getting the other end like in a noose so that he can get it around Ben's neck and control him. And Ben flips, Ben charges, and boom, they go over the side. Now, remember what I said at the beginning when I told you I was going to move into this house in Hawaii? It's at the edge of a mountain, and it drops from a cliff into the ocean. Well, they show Homeboy, right? So Ben charges him and jumps at him and hits Homeboy. And they go through the glass that is the fence on the side of the pool. And Homeboy falls all the way down. And that one they show him hit. So I've always wondered. I've skydived and I've bungeed. And I've always wondered, like, if you fall from a plane, at what point do you lose consciousness, or do you know you're hitting the ground? Well, Homeboy knew he was hitting the ground, and when they show it, they show it. And I thought that was, you know, you learn with the veterinarian that they're going to be pretty visceral with the kills, and then they just like showed you here, okay, yeah, you're gonna, if you came for that kind of stuff, you're gonna get it. If you don't like that kind of stuff, this is what's gonna make you look away from the screen. The gore, and then some of the suspense tense set pieces. And so he hits, Homeboy's dead. They're all staring because they can't see who went over. And, you know, they make it sound like they can hear Homeboy because they make a big sound effect when his head hits the ground, a big squish. And they make it sound like they can all hear it, which they wouldn't be able to because he hit like 100 yards below them, like a whole football field below them. But then all of a sudden they see Ben's hand pull back up and they're like, oh crap. So Ben is still alive. And now we got one down. So Homeboy's down, and now they got to take care of Ben. Well, at some point in time in this next little segment, they do get the rope over his neck, but he is able to get to the younger sister and really slices her leg up pretty good. Actually, that happened all before. I apologize. My timing is all wrong because Homeboy gave them his shirt to wrap it up. So in all of this thing, we've lost Homeboy. Girls had her leg sliced up, and they've all jumped into the middle of the pool because chimps can't swim. He does get the rope around him at some point, but just like my research on YouTube showed, a rope ain't holding a chimp. Chimp gets out, and basically he's hanging out by the side of the pool waiting. And they don't have their phones. Of course, one of them's charging, one of them's cracked. All of the convenient things to make it where they can't call for help. And then it just kind of starts, all right, we got to kill some people off. And you know they got to kill some people off. And you assume Friend Not Friend's going to get it because she's not been a very likable person. I assumed younger sister wasn't going to get it. But then when she gets her leg sliced out, I'm like, man, without a phone, she ain't going to make it very long. So I thought maybe they're going to, those are the types of movies. I'm not saying I enjoy that, but I do enjoy that when all bets are off. Like if they would have killed the younger sister at that point, I might have thought, crap, this movie's going to end with Ben the winner. But the younger daughter is able to survive. They're able to get a raft that's hanging out on the side. There's some back and forth with Ben. At one point, I think they needed another quick kill, and so they take friend not friend and over the pool. Earlier in the movie, when she's hanging out by herself the night she gets there, she hits the light switch, and you can see over the pool they've got really cool lights hanging with ropes. Hint, hint. At one point, they kind of lose track of where Ben is. They're talking about, what are we going to do about the leg? How are we going to get a phone? Where are the phones? Yada, yada, yada. And all of a sudden, Ben has climbed one of the ropes that's hanging over the pool, reaches down and grabs her. It doesn't kill her at this point, but it does rip off part of her scalp. They never went back to that. And I'm going to have to rewatch it at some point because maybe the ropes fall in the pool. I don't know. But that was something I thought of the very first time they jumped in the pool. Dude, that if those ropes holding those lights up are good at all, he's going to be able to get to you. But that was the only time they used that. But they've shown how strong he is several times. There's several times in the movie he gets people down and starts beating them with his arms and hands. And they do a good job, sound effect wise, of making sure the power of Ben is making sure that we feel it. And then when he lifts this girl up, he's able to pick her up by her hair, and it rips her scalp off. Like, you know, they do a good job, a lot of close-ups of Ben's teeth. Like, there's no doubt this dude can do the damage he needs to do. And I've heard Ben was played by, and I need to reread it, that it was an animatronic. I read that at first, but what I really think I read was that it was a guy in a suit, kind of like Andy Serkis, right? That's my guess. And maybe they used computer animation on the face, like the body as a guy, and they just used CGI or whatever on the face to make sure he had the facial expressions. But they do a good job because there's a lot of slow build-up close-ups of Ben when he's looking for people, when he's looking through a door, when he's looking through a curtain. And like he's the real deal. Like, he's got big teeth. I would not want to mess with Ben. So the next adventure comes, like I said, it doesn't kill that girl. Now you've got sister bleeding and you've got friend not friend bleeding, and they've got to get to a phone. And they have a cracked phone that's on the edge of the pool. So at one point they're able to manipulate Ben by having one person gets out over here, one person gets over here, and Ben's like going back and forth, and they're able to get the phone, but it's cracked. But they are able to get recent calls. And if you'll remember, I told you one of the calls they made earlier was to those boys from the plane. So they call the boys, and they're screaming and hollering into the plane. They never give them the address. I'm not sure how the boys got the address. I don't think they were already, maybe they could have sent a ping as we do when we need to let people know where we are. But somehow or another in that little part, the boys were able to figure out where this house is. But then the phone falls to the bottom of the water. So now that phone's cracked and flooded. So that one's done. And the next big set piece is them trying to get into the house to get another phone. So Ben disappears for a while. They sneak around the house. They find a phone charged, but they run into a lot of stuff in this movie trying to be quiet. They step on a remote and turn a TV on. They step on some glass. They knock over some books when they're hiding in a closet. Like, anything they could do to make sure Ben knew where they were, they did. One of the best scenes in this one reminded me of Halloween, because they find the phone, but before they can get back outside, I think that's when they stepped on the remote. It turns the TV on. Ben was upstairs. He comes running downstairs, and they hide in one of those closets that's just like the one that Laurie hid in the upstairs of the original Halloween. When Michael, she stabs him with the hanger. And, so Ben knows they're in the room, and he starts looking around, and they make noise, as they always did during this movie. And Ben's able to, he doesn't find them right then and there, but that's a really good scene of where he kind of tears the wood of the shelves down, and then he looks through like a plastic raincoat or something. I don't know what it was, but I liked that. But they both get away then, but that doesn't last long, because the next one to get it is the actual friend, the one that shares the necklace. They're both running from Ben, and Ben is able to tackle. She falls down the steps, and that's a pretty horrific death right there. Not so much the dying, but there's 2 times in this movie where the person is tackled or laying down, and Ben is on top of him, and he kind of slows his approach long enough where, like, as an audience member, I'm sitting there thinking to myself, that would suck to have time to process, like, it's over, and it's about to be over at the hands of this rabid, cujoed monkey chimp that is crazy strong, has big claws and big teeth. This is going to hurt. That happens twice, and one of them is this one. And you actually like this character. She's not like overly developed, but she's developed enough that you got nothing against her. She's been nice to everybody. But it slows down long enough that you know she's processing, this is it. And then, yeah, he beats her to a pulp and then bashes her head in on the staircase. So she's gone. So now we're down to the 2 sisters. And there's a bit of a chase scene. He busts through some glass. Good scenes right there, right? And at some point in time, older sister gets back to safety. So now we're down to just the 2 sisters. And then they flash, and this is the only thing I didn't like, but I understand they had to figure out how to get the dad home. So I kind of touched on it earlier. The dad is trying to sell a book. And this is a huge thing. They build it up like he's got to go on this trip because he's got to get this book sold. They don't need the money. I'm telling you, they live in that house. They're doing just fine. But they act like they do. And they flash to a scene where he's getting a text from the house about, hey, the test of the mongoose we found inside Ben's enclosure comes back as rabid. And he's like, there's no rabies in Hawaii. Test it again. And I'm like, yeah. If my 2 sons are at home and I get a text from the vet saying that this giant monkey might have rabies, I'm calling home ASAP. And he doesn't. He's just like, yeah, whatever, retest it. That's not accurate. Of course, he does think Ben's enclosure is locked, I guess, but still, yeah, like I'm checking. He doesn't. Later on, he ends up having to leave. And that's the only one I didn't like. They tried a very quick scene with him trying to sell his book, and they're like, you can't leave right now. This deal won't get done. And I'm like, yeah, but, his kids are dying at the hands of a cujoed monkey, so he's got a jet. I thought that was a little underdeveloped, but again, it's not what we're here for. So you do know 2 things. Once it's down to the 2 girls, we know for a fact, this is what I know as I was sitting in the theater at this point. So girls died on the staircase. Homeboy has fallen off or been thrown off the side of the cliff. I know 2 things. 1, trailer has the guy from the airplane coming in the house like, hey, where's the party? Hadn't seen that and hadn't seen the car. I couldn't remember in the trailer who was in the car because, and I'm actually wrong here, the girl that had her scalp ripped out is still alive too. And I couldn't remember if it was sister or her in the car. It ends up it was the one with the scalp. But the next thing that comes up are the 2 guys show up at the house, the 2 guys from the airplane. They are there to up the kill count. They're not likable. One of them is more likable than the other. But the next scene involves those 2 guys getting theirs. And one of them, I would say one of them, the one that you dislike the most, which that's on purpose, I'm sure. That's probably the most graphic, long-lasting kill in the movie. If some people out there disagree with me, I'm sure you either remember something I don't or something else stood out to you more. But again, it's one where Ben gets a hold of him. He's laying down. Ben's on top of him. He's got him pinned down. Dude can't go nowhere. And there's a point where there's a realization in this dude's eyes, like, this is it. I'm done. And yeah, Ben rips his jaw completely off of him. And even then, this had a bit of Terrifier to it, because even after that, he was still alive. You could still see the guy's eyes looking. You could see his tongue moving around a little bit. And then he ends up, finishing him off. But that one was pretty lengthy, pretty vivid, and looked pretty painful. Not a way I would like to go when I go. So he's gone, and then his friend is gone pretty quick after that. And so at this point, Ben is distracted, and the girls in the pool can hear that he's distracted. So the friend gets out of the pool, starts running, and now I'm like, all right, so here's the last big set piece that I remember from the trailer. She grabs some keys that she finds, and she sprints to a car. She gets in the car. She's got her phone with her, and she's like, holy crap, I made it. I've got my keys, I've got a car, I've got a phone. Unfortunately, she tries to start the car, and the keys she grabbed were the wrong keys. There's two cars. She just grabbed the keys she saw, and she went and got in the wrong car. And by now, Ben's not distracted anymore, and Ben's chilling outside the car. This had a bit of Scream feel to it, the original Scream, when the back of the car opens for the news guy, and Ghostface gets in the back. Like, this is when they kind of jump Ben's intelligence. Like, Ben's been very rabid for a while now, and all of a sudden Ben knows what unlock and lock is, and he starts kind of playing games. I was like, it's a bit of a stretch, but it was also fun. Why not, right? She calls 911, and this was a part again. I was into the movie. I was like, what are you going to tell them? Because I've never had to call 911, thank goodness, God bless. But it seems like a lot of movie 911 operators are kind of skeptical that people actually need help. And rather than just we're on the way, this 911 operator is very inquisitive about who exactly is it that's chasing you. And homegirl said what I'm saying, can y'all not just trace the call? She's a visitor. She doesn't know the address. I don't know the address. I'm going to start learning the address of everywhere I go in case I'm getting chased by a Cujo chimpanzee. I'm able to tell the 911 operator exactly where I am, but she can't. But I'm like, tell them it's the chimp, because there can only be so many people in this 911 jurisdiction that have a pet chimp. That ought to help narrow down where it is. But then I'm asking myself, but if you tell them it's a pet chimp, are they going to come? But surely they all know there's these crazy people that have a pet chimp. There's only one chimpanzee that could be killing people in a house in this area. But instead, she never says it. And there's people like, who's chasing you? Are you sure they're coming to get you? I'm like, come on, 911. I'm sure that's not a real representation of real 911. I'm sure y'all are amazing and jump to it ASAP. But this Hawaiian movie 911 lady, she has way too many questions for somebody getting chased by a rabid chimpanzee. So I do think the call got traced. So now you know a few things. And now at this point, you thought the two boys from the plane might be able to help, but they're dead. You thought that the dad, now you know there's two other people that could be on the way. The dad could be on the way. They don't do a good job of telling you how far away he is. So we don't know if he had to fly, if he had to drive, don't know how far away he is. And, my hope is that in the day and age of technology that we're in, that the 911 call lasted long enough that you also know they're coming. And so she's down. Now we are down to just the sisters. And it starts kind of the final big scene. And at this point, my oldest son has told me he needs me to come get him. But I'm also like, all right, I've seen everything that the trailer showed me. So now we got to be to the big finale. And that was honestly, there was a part in the big finale that I thought was really original. Because I've mentioned that the father was deaf. Dad shows up. Right? And you can hear the girls have been running. There's been a pretty long chase scene, and it's a pretty violent chase scene. There's at least twice where each of the daughters, each of the sisters, I think might be Dunsky, because Ben gets them and starts beating them. And this dude is strong. Both times they kind of help each other out. and they're able to keep surviving. And then you hear the dad's car pull up outside. And as dad comes in, they take us as the viewer to what dad can hear. And I thought that was really cool. And it kind of goes back and forth, if I remember correctly. Like when they go back to the girl's perspective, you can hear again. But then they go back to the dad, you're seeing what the dad sees and you're hearing what the dad hears. And his back is to what's happening, and he can't see anything that's happening. I thought that props to Primate, because you took something that I don't know the average cheap horror movie, like I'm not sure that they would think to do it quite like that. And it makes for a very suspenseful scene, because they need help, and you know as the viewer they need help, and you know how close they are, like they're right in another room. But and you're not mad at the dad, because like he can't hear. He's looking to see what's going on. He sees a smashed TV, but then he ends up going either upstairs or downstairs. I don't remember which one. And you're like, no, you just need to go right in that room. Like they did a great job of eliciting that response out of the audience during this scene. So yeah, like probably my most enjoyable scene of the movie, because it really pulls out your heartstrings, your suspense, you're yelling at the screen. It pulled all of that out of me. Because you don't want these sisters to die, right? And you like the dad, and you're not mad at him because he can't hear. But I thought that was a really, really good scene. But eventually the dad goes into the bedroom where the guy we don't like from the plane had his jaw ripped completely out. And at that point he sees it and he's like, oh, this ain't good. And the next thing you know, the girls are still getting attacked. And then that same whistle that the dad used at the beginning of the movie comes into play, and Ben stops long enough. There's a few times where I think the movie cheats a little, and it kind of teases you, like Ben, there's still Ben inside Cujo'd monkey. There's a scene where he tries to hold the hand of one of the sisters again, the scene where he calms down to the whistle, and I'm like, I don't know that a rabid monkey, I think once you get rabies, you completely check out. But whatever. And it was a good movie. It worked. And so it gets Ben to stop beating the girls long enough. Now it starts the finale where Ben is kind of battling all three of them, and like he's going back and forth from beating them, and then, you know, they help each other out. So he goes and beats another one, and someone else helps him out. And the younger sister gets another pretty major injury. And I'm like, if she makes it, she's going to be hurting for a little while. The dad gets beat up pretty bad. The older sister's they're all getting their tails beat. But luckily they're helping each other out enough that Ben's having to bounce. It's kind of like a tag team wrestling match where it's 1-on-3. Luckily, because Ben's way stronger than all of them. And there's, of course, a scene where they think they've killed Ben. And I'm like, you didn't kill Ben. They beat him, they knocked him out. But, I mean, it's another, in my opinion, it's straight out of Scream, the original, when he says the killer comes back for one last kill and he jumps up and then they shoot him. Not in my movie. Like, they're hugging each other almost exactly like that. The older sister has her eyes, and so she sees Ben start to get up. And as Ben gets up, Ben charges, she throws both the dad and the younger sister. And I'm like, okay, so she's going to be the hero. And she takes Ben, and they both go over. And this time, Ben impales himself. Girl's hanging on by a thread, and they help her up. And Ben is officially no more. And then they all get wheeled into the ambulances, and everybody's going to be okay. And it was basically a lot of coping for them, Dylan. They needed that, it turns out. They needed this bonding experience so they could all come together and be a close-knit family again, because ever since their mom died of cancer, which they touch on very briefly, they've not been able to be. They've all been dealing with it on their own. Little did they know that they needed this experience with Ben to get bit, get rabies, kill a lot of people, brutally attack them, and almost kill all three of them to come together as a family. But they do. They all hug. Ben is no more. And Primate ends. And there didn't get set up for sequels. There's a very small end credits. I wouldn't even call it an end credit scene, end credit stinger. That I don't feel like if they make a Primate 2, it's going to have to be a different monkey. Because I don't think you could do a prequel, because a prequel would not be a horror movie, because a prequel would show Ben becoming the good monkey, because the only thing that turned him bad was getting bit by a rabid mongoose. So I think it's a one-off. I think it, as I've said from the beginning, I know I was a little rambly. I'll get better with my reviews. I was a little rambly, but I think you have a good idea. There's some really cool scenes in the movie, really cool deaths. And again, the scene at the end with the father and them alternating the perspectives to where you hear him, you don't hear him, you hear him, you don't hear him. Seeing what the father sees, but hearing that the father can't hear. I thought that was an excellent way to do that. And yeah, so it was a good drive. It was a touchdown. It was an extra point. It was exactly what it set out to be, and it was an enjoyable movie. I think I gave it 3 stars on my Letterboxd. I'm still figuring out how to really rate my Letterboxd stuff, because I don't really dislike many movies. It takes a lot for me to dislike a movie. And so I've got to figure out, like Primate, I liked more than the average movie, but it was not a great movie for me, right? So it's not a 5 star, it's not a 4 star. Is it a 3.5? I might change it to 3.5. I think I've got to figure out what my baseline is on Letterboxd, because again, like for me to give a movie 1 star takes a lot. I am very forgiving because I don't get to make movies, and I'm always envious of what people are able to do. And so it takes a lot for me to dislike a movie, but I don't want every movie to get 3 stars. But right now I gave Primate 3 stars because I enjoyed it. And again, it accomplished exactly what I wanted it to accomplish. I got popcorn. I sat down, and for an hour and a half, I enjoyed myself. I yelled at the screen a little bit. I saw some cool deaths. And man, and when it was over, it was over. So go see it. Enjoyed it. If you enjoyed this review, I promise I'll get more focused. My ADHD hits off and on. The only reason I've been able to sit still this long is because it's so cold in my house. But I hope you enjoy Primate. So this was my first full movie review. Now we've got one of each. We've got a podcast about the college football playoff, which goes for the touchdowns. We've got a podcast about Primate, which goes for the terror. And on the podcast about Primate, I was able to tie in the review to some football analogies. So that's why this is Terror and Touchdowns. Thank you. Hope to see you again. Don't know what the next movie I'm going to watch or review will be. I'm going to try to mix a mixture of old franchise retrospectives with trying to keep up with the new stuff as it comes out. I've tried to put my letterbox in my description. I've never run a YouTube channel. I don't know what I'm doing on any of this, so bear with me as I figure it all out. But thank you all for listening. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. And I'm going to go watch some wild card football. Bye.